the path I took to become an A&P. So I started flying when I was 15 years old.
And then when they get out, what should they expect? Hey guys, get ready to hear from Kyle Bushman, an A&P who shares his perspective working as a mechanic on general aviation aircraft. Appreciate you taking a few minutes, man, and just kind of going over some of the pros and cons here, A&P, or maybe someone that just got into A&Ps and might be interested in maybe another avenue, because I'm sure you know as good as I do is that depends on where you work, things can be completely different. For those that may not know you, if you can just give us like a quick, maybe 30-second bio, who you are and kind of how you got into aviation, you know, what's on the horizon for you.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Kyle Bushman. I'm the owner of Ragwood Refactory. We restore antique and vintage airplanes is kind of what we started as. And so I've been kind of transitioning the last 5 or 6 years since I took over the company. We're doing a lot more backcountry stuff. There's a lot of aviation is getting real excited about backcountry stuff, and that's that tube and fabric work. And so we do, I can weld, we do fabric, we do painting, we do the whole kind of 9 yards on old airplanes. Recently, in the last year, or probably 2 years ago now, I got my IA. We kind of expanded into doing some annual style work. Realistically, we're a heavy airframe shop doing kind of mods, restorations to airframes. The annual stuff kind of keeps the fleet flying, which is important because there's fewer and fewer of those guys running around. So we're bringing that on. With that backcountry flying stuff, I've been able to partner with Kevin Quinn and Johnny Walker, and we're kind of putting this STOL drag event on and turning this into a series. And we're kind of hoping for an 8 to 10 event series throughout the year and kind of pinnacling at Reno or High Sierra for our championship. But yeah, that's who I am.
Awesome. Appreciate it. So the big topic for this video is A&P, I guess, route going into a school. And then when they get out, what should they expect? Your view that you have, your experience would be like the GA side of things. It's not like a large wide body fleet MRO. I guess maybe you do have some that I'm not sure, but just kind of confirm where you're coming from, your experience, what you've kind of had your hands in, and your take on some pros, and then maybe kind of alternate with something to take note of. Yep. or just be aware of, really.
The easiest way is to describe the path I took to become an A&P. So I started flying when I was 15 years old and soloed on my 16th birthday and kind of went that route. And one of the driving forces with aviation is cost, and maintenance costs something. And it's not like a car where you can be a handy guy and decide to do some work on your airplane. You kind of realistically at the end of the day, you need your A&P to fly in, or you need someone in your life that's an A&P, or you need your A&P to be able to fly your airplane as much as you want to. That's just the reality of aviation when it comes to certified stuff. And so that cost was expensive. And so I was going to play football in California my senior year, and was going to go into California for college. And that's kind of what I thought my plan was. I got tired of beating up my body at the end of the senior year, kind of towards baseball season. And the A&P program was a 2-year program. And I thought that would be the easiest way to cut my cost down for aviation for the rest of my life was get my A&P and do all my maintenance myself. And so that's what I did. I went to a 2-year program and to get my A&P, and they kind of focused on helicopters and kind of the side the school was geared up for, where the instructions they had was working on helicopters for the firefighting industry. And so we did a lot of helicopter stuff, and I ended up getting out, and that's kind of what I was geared up to do, was go work on helicopters. And there was kind of a summer job opportunity to work on old airplanes. And so kind of while I was in limbo, I jumped on that, and we started working on old airplanes, and then it kind of scaled from there. Because you talk to high school kids and you hear them say, well, I want to be a diesel mechanic, I want to be an electrician, I want to be a plumber. Well, you never hear anyone say I want to be an aviation mechanic. It's not that they can't, it's just not on their radar as something they can do. As kids are searching for a career path or something to do, they need the choices, right? Because a certain are going to go, wow, that sounds a whole lot better than being an electrician or whatever. Aviation that's really unique is, so say a guy is wants to be an electrician or something like that, you go and get your A&P, and it's such a broad, sweeping license. You can specialize in any avenue of aviation. I mean, I can work on helicopters, I can work on 777s, I can work on Super Cubs, there's just a huge variety. And then you break that down even further, I can work on engines, I can work on pistons, radials, turbines, and like you could dive into any of those. You want to work on avionics and your thing is tech. I mean, you have the ability with your A&P to kind of hunt out what you like and then specialize in that area.
You know, there's a lot of options. It's not just like, well, where can I go and work on helicopters? If there's no helicopters, there's no work. You know, it's not that. So it definitely gives you a wide range.
Any avenue. And then traveling, I mean, anything aviation related as a mechanic or a pilot, the traveling is important to some respect. So like when we went through MP school, they said everyone get your passports because you get out of school and the guy staying there with his passport has the ability to travel all over the world. And I've been able to do that. I've gone to several different countries and worked on different NREG airplanes because I had a passport in my pocket. If the kind of a funny, like talking about pay, I have a buddy who was a truck driver. He was actually a tow truck driver. We went to MP school together, and he decided to chase the helicopter stuff. And so he travels in the summer when the fires are going. He's with a helicopter sitting somewhere at a fire camp, which the job is pretty, I mean, it's demanding, long hours, but actual work on the fire camp is pretty simple. And he was a tow truck driver working nights when a guy called. And 4 years out of school, the 4 years out of school, he cleared $140,000. And so, like, you have a pretty big opportunity if you can travel and kind of follow the money. There's money to be made as a mechanic, and pretty quickly, realistically. There's a million other options too as well. I mean, we cover Super Cubs and we do mods, and we're doing just fine here too. I mean, so you have a lot of different options.
As a pro, is to be able to have so many different varieties of options, you know, depending on where you live, to be able to find employment. But what would be one thing to consider that maybe just to mention to be aware? Or
so, like, for me, aviation is a lifestyle, and so aviation isn't a job for me. I like being around airplanes, and the kind of aviation that I'm around is what I like to do on my pastime. And some people, you could get into aviation and it's just going to be a job. And the guys that are coming in for just a job, traveling is a pretty important part of roles, or having flexibility to be able to move around during certain parts of the year. Because those commercial operators that are flying fleets or moving airplanes around, airplanes are dynamic, they move. So you've got to be able to chase them around. And you bring up the idea of like what's around in your area. So I mean, you don't. It's not like if you're gonna be an electrician, there's houses everywhere. You could work in the neighborhood. In aviation, you've got to be able to travel a little bit because they're all over.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, travel would be something to consider, but probably initially it's probably more of something that is more likely, I guess, maybe because you're trying to find work, and you know it might be part of that position that you can apply for that's in your area that does require. So you have to be, I guess, maybe less picky when you're starting out. So I'd say as you get more experience, then maybe the traveling option might not have to be the only option. Maybe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. As you get experience, you're going to have the option to move up and then be staying at the base, wherever the base is of the company, and stay right there. And you don't have that as much travel for sure.
Yeah. So most of your experience, you would say, outside of the helicopter in your training was definitely GA, right?
For sure. Everything I've done has been antique aviation. So we're working on tube and fabric stuff. That's where most of my focus is. We've recently built up a Cessna 175 that we kind of built up as a STOL drag competition airplane. So we kind of did some metal work and that kind of thing. We put leading edge slats on it, did some structural changes to the fuselage and wings. But realistically, our shop's geared up for doing tube and fabric.
If you have something that would be another pro, I guess, for a young guy or gal, honestly, it's not just for guys. I mean, young women definitely get into A&Ps, and I think it's awesome. So maybe something else that might be a perk as, you know, going into the aviation aircraft maintenance.
Well, so I mean, we kind of touched a little bit before. It's just the lifestyle. So I'm a mechanic and I'm also a pilot, and part of the fun for me is flying the airplanes. As a mechanic, I have the luxury and also the perk of flying all my customers' airplanes, moving them to and from the airport, flying them on maintenance flights, going with them. You get exposed to a huge variety of airplanes. So as a mechanic, I'm able to grow my pilotage far more than a lot of other pilots would. I have a deeper understanding of the airplane, but then also the customers give me the ability to fly their airplanes for maintenance flights and that kind of thing. So all of a sudden you started as a mechanic and now your pilotage is just soaring because you're flying so many different type airplanes in different situations. And
Yeah.
so if flying and that kind of thing's interesting, becoming a mechanic is a really interesting way to get your foot in the door to become a pilot.
So again, Kyle, just want to appreciate your time, taking a few minutes here to chat with us and tell us a little bit more about you and your business and your background, and providing some pros and things to be aware of / maybe cons for some. But for someone that's looking to go into aircraft maintenance as a career, and yeah, I really appreciate it. And if you have anything else that maybe you want to add to someone that's really looking at it right now, I know a lot of people has actually been looking up online here recently with a lot of job shift change going on. So maybe something to add, maybe just kind of
Well,
a.
the biggest thing I could add, people always talk about the pilot, how many don't have pilots who are going to need, but behind every pilot needs to be a whole fleet of mechanics keeping those things going. And there's not a lot of people talking about that. And one of the things is guys that are getting into aviation maintenance right now, what they're experiencing is a ridiculous flood in work because the guys at the top side that are retiring out, there's no one filling in the bottom. And so you essentially, I call it like a funnel. There's a giant funnel and it's like it's all shrinking down. And so the guys that are in the industry now working on stuff, you're just getting saturated with more work than you could possibly do. And so everyone that gets into aviation maintenance would have that same experience. If you're a hard worker and honest and true to your customers, you're going to be just more work than you can do in a day, which there's not a lot of industries that have that luxury. And so I say that anyone that's even thinking about it as a career opportunity is to go find a JC around your area or a school that offers aviation maintenance and dive in feet first, because you're going to have the work when it's done. I can't think of any other college that the recruiters will hire people right out of school. The day they're done, you pretty much can guarantee that if you want a job, everyone will have a job the day they're done. Is that the job they want? Maybe not, but you have the job opportunity right out of school. And so that's a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, it might not be the one you want, but it's definitely a stair step into getting plugged in and have an opportunity to grow. Because I mean, when you get out of school, you need to be hungry and have that passion to grow and to do your best, I think.
100%. Really need that experience, because realistically, you get into aviation maintenance and you've got to find the area that you want to develop your experience in, and then you got to go put your time in and go work with people, ask questions, and gain experience in that area. And then before you know it, you're going to be the guy that's most experienced in that field or that area.
Totally agree. Awesome. Okay, guys. So I appreciate you watching. And if you have any questions or comments, you can drop those below. And I guess Kyle and I can both kind of keep an eye out for those, and we'll try to answer those. And until next time, be safe and be blessed. I will see you in the next one. Later.